The new NBA and MLB season is in full swing, and BetOnline has you covered with the best odds and biggest promotions and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams. Head to BetOnline today to stay updated on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
It was a new idea that was over 300 years old when it started. A destination where you could celebrate life's milestones, a graduation, a job promotion, or an anniversary. A place for a long, romantic meal with your lover. A place where you could take your time as the rest of the world rushed by. The concept was born out of a fad by two men that were both hot. And though most fads fade over time, this one has managed to navigate a change in ownership, shifting consumer taste, and the pandemic to survive the last 50 years. And as they head into the next half-century, with a focus on modernizing spaces and menus, they will always be the place to go when you are feeling very cheesy. And that's why this week's On Brand is on the melting pot.
We're all jazzed up, nearly having a cow. You want your favorite show, and it's on right now. It's on brand.
Welcome to On Brand with Jon and Marisa.
Hi, I'm Jon.
Hi, I'm Marisa.
Just throwing it out there, I'm on the last 7 days of a cold, so I feel a little congested. In my head, my voice sounds very nasally.
You sound gorgeous, honey.
I apologize.
But
I guess it works for Valentine's Day because it's my sexy voice.
It's quite husky. You know what might help your congestion? A boiling hot pot of fondue.
I can barely swallow my own spit.
I hear before every show, Adele drinks some melted Gruyere.
As someone who has seen Adele twice, I can confirm that is true. She's always walking around with just a little mug of hot cheese.
A little sipping cheese.
A little sipping cheese. Now, okay, so I feel like this is my second brand in a row, Jellycat and now Melting Pot, where people are going to be like, yeah, I think I know it, but it's not like it's no
Velcro.
It's true. Though I will say, in Velcro, half of the people that like guessed the insect were like, "Is Velcro a brand?"
Well,
you have now learned, yes, it is a brand, a very important brand.
The melting pot is a little less in danger of becoming genericized.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, I feel like maybe next week I'm gonna have to my next show I'm gonna have to do a legacy brand. Though I will say, Melting Pot loves to refer to themselves as a legacy brand.
Of course,
they have been around for 50 years.
This is huge.
Who would have thought that like having a pot of melted cheese would last as long as it has? A very expensive pot of melted cheese. So before we banter, do you have any thoughts on this?
I've never been to the melting pot, but I definitely, when you said the name, I knew what it was. That was the point when I realized I didn't get it any prior to that. It's not a place I've ever been because this is my understanding of fondue. Extremely expensive.
It's so expensive for what it is.
Yes.
It's literally like a pot of cheese with some wine, and they say like basic white wine. I don't think they're pulling out like I'm assuming $2 Chuck. It's not like
Dom Perignon.
Yeah, definitely not Dom Perignon. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a wine expert, but yeah, I was looking like current prices right now for dinner for two. You have two different choices: $128 for two, $155 for two.
That is crazy.
That's just the food. And it is like a multi-course meal. You get like the cheese fondue, you get like a oily cooked meat fondue, and then you get a chocolate fondue.
Okay, that does sound fun. I mean, it feels like it's an experience dinner, like akin to like a Benihana, where it's like you're not just going because it's the cheap thing to do. You're making a memory.
Babe, you've hit the cheese with the fork. That is exactly what they are trying to do. They want it to be an experience. They want it to be a memory. They want it to be a destination place. That being said, they are now moving into a world of, they also want to be more modern. It's very like, and we'll get into all this, but they're trying to kind of update their look and maybe step into, God, the
new millennium
quarter of the 2020s. It's still, for some reason, it was weird enough when it became the 2000s.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it wasn't until 2025 that I'm like, what the frick is happening?
We are midway in the roaring 20s.
Yeah, we're in the 20s.
Yeah.
And if history has taught us anything, we're about to step into the Depression.
Oh, that's true. 20s have a bad rap.
And then a world war. So the next 20 years, and then we won't be able to use metal.
The price of fondue will be skyrocketing.
Babe. Oh, can we talk? Are you going to say eggs?
No, I was just going to say, have you ever had fondue? Because if you've been going to the melting pot on weekends, I certainly haven't been invited. Is this a place you frequent?
I try to go to the melting pot twice a week. I get the dinner for two. I'm like, he'll be here any No, I'm straight when I'm there. She'll be here any moment.
Yeah, that feels like a very straight restaurant.
If I'm remembering correctly, I've only been to the melting pot once. I went with one of my besties, who's still one of my besties, in high school, or I guess in college, for her 21st birthday.
Yes, so it feels like a birthday spot for sure.
Yeah, so it has and that's Polly. A big shout out to Polly in Florida. I love her.
I thought you were saying Polly like polyamory.
My Polly friend.
Yeah.
It almost feels like somewhere you would go when your parents are in town. Like, because I'm not going to go myself, but like, hey, let's celebrate you. Like, you're going to pick up the bill. Yeah, I'll eat some $200 cheese.
On daddy's dime.
On daddy's dime. I'm always looking for daddy to give me some cheese.
Yeah, there's something very 80s about it, too.
Very.
Fondue.
And I think that's also what they're trying to get away from. And it's Valentine's Day. So I thought I would do, some of these holidays, I want to do like a brand related to them. And there's not a ton of like, sure, Valentine's Day, you have Brock's. Last year I did C's. I didn't want to do another candy. I didn't want to do flowers. I don't know. This popped into my head.
No, it's very fun. It's very romantic. It definitely feels like a Valentine's Day spot. Speaking of Valentine's Day, our Valentine's Day tradition is to go, we've mentioned it, on Halloween, we do a scary escape room. On Valentine's Day for years, we've been going to do an escape room together. We'll do an escape room and get some pizza. And John, as soon as he walked in the door, boy, I barraged him with committing to a Friday night Valentine's Day plan.
Well, and to be fair, like, we were supposed to record last week, and I had to postpone because I wasn't feeling well. The door wasn't even shut. I'm hiccuping right now. I'm not at 100%. The door was, like, barely open. You're like, escape room Friday, you committing now? Please commit. Sign this contract. Are you going?
It's a tradition. We take our traditions very seriously. It's all we have. We don't have religion. We have tradition. This is it.
Valentine's Day escape room. I'm going to be house sitting this week. So I was looking forward to like just being able to be in a lovely home and house sit. Now I have to
You'll
travel.
have to escape the RMS Titanic.
Right. I get it. It's a Titanic theme one, very on brand for us. But then she books this thing without looking at where it's at. And then she looks to see how far we have to go. It's by the airport, which if you live in LA, this is very far away.
It's all part of the adventure. We have to share the love on Valentine's Day. It's not just for romantic love. It's for friendship love also.
Yes. So we'll do our annual escape room and we'll report back. It is Titanic themed. When I'm in a less coffee, nose dripping state, I'm sure I'll be more excited about it.
I remember we went and did an escape room. Maybe we told this story. Well, when I had COVID and I didn't know, this was like
the first COVID.
This was before we knew what COVID was. I'm convinced that's what I had because it was like January 2020. And I had been like, just, how that cough that lingers. And we had done an escape room. And remember, I was if I got a coughing attack, it would be like I felt like I was gonna keel over.
Yeah.
And so I was clinging for life for these cough drops. Like I had to always have a cough drop in my mouth. And when we were going to the escape room, I had my cough drops and the guy was like, "Oh, no candy." And I was like, it's not candy, it's medicine." He was like, I don't know. I think I just like kind of snuck it and brought it in anyway, but I was like freaking out at the thought of being locked in like a dungeon and having a coughing attack and having to, there's an emergency button on the wall of every escape room, which is like, just, I got to get the hell out of here, open the door. And whenever I see that, I'm like, oh my God, is something going to happen in here where I'm like, let me out. I don't care if the murderer takes my friends. I need to flee.
That was a really fun escape room. And in case you're in LA, we won't spoil it and tell you which one it was. But it did have a moment in it where all of a sudden you're like holding this object and you're like, I think it's like there's nothing else to do, but we're holding like this ceramic thing. And the like game master came on and we're like, are we supposed to like break this? Like, what do we do with this thing? And the game master came on. He's like, sometimes you'll find yourself doing things you never thought you would do. And we got all excited because we realized we had to break this object, and we threw it on the ground and sobbed. And that's the other thing now. We've done enough escape rooms that we're undefeated. So we're going to have to lose at some point, but I really don't want to lose.
We have a really good streak going.
We have a really good streak
Yeah.
going.
So we'll report back maybe on the Patreon about how we did. If
Yeah.
we escaped the Titanic or if we're lost at sea with Jack.
Oh, man. I'm curious what happens on this thing.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I will go dress fully as the old lady just so I can wear a nightgown. And I can do the bloop. I'll keep blooping my necklace. Before we get into the show, one thing if you have joined our Patreon, and this isn't a plug for it, but I've been trying to think of things I want to do with that pod. And one of the things I want to do is share human spirit things that kind of bring me to tears in the week if they exist. So there is one currently, and I was going to save it for Off Brand, but it's happening before the next episode of Off Brand comes out. So I'm going to bring it up now just in case you want to look into it, because I think it happens the day after this episode drops, and then I'll bring it back up on Off Brand next week. So do the words Doug's Winter Party mean anything to you?
No.
You have not heard about this at all? Okay. So there's this 84-year-old man.
Oh, already I'm crying.
I'm not even kidding.
Do you ever just drive by and see an old man at a bus stop and just feel like you are going to burst into tears?
Burst into something. Yes, burst into tears.
And something else.
Wait,
what does that even mean? What does that even mean?
That's for Off Brand. Now everything's blurred. I cry so easily, especially with people that are older, with parental relationships. It takes nothing to make me cry. So this 84-year-old man goes over to his neighbor's house, and this is all caught on their Ring camera, and he's got a pocket full of handwritten party invitations. And the woman comes to the door and he gives her the invitation. And basically it's I'm inviting you to my winter party. It's on February 15th and it starts at 4 and ends when the cops show up. And it's the cutest thing in the freaking world.
Oh my God.
This guy has gone, this whole party, Doug's Winter Party, has gone so viral in a way that I can't even describe. All of TikTok wants to go to this party. There's been a GoFundMe that's now raising money for a charitable cause. His wife passed away, I believe, from cancer. So now they're putting money towards that. Companies small breweries are donating beer. Everyone's trying to.
Do people know where it is? So people want to go, or
people
is that
want to
secret?
go, and I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into unless he wants that to happen. Now the daughter's involved. She's gone on because the family's what the hell has happened? All of a sudden, my grandpa is a viral sensation on TikTok. And he's
the new Justin Bieber.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So now people are hoping that they'll live stream the party, but just the fact that he put until the cops come, there's T-shirts that says that now, 4 o'clock until the cops show up.
Also,
it's just
4 o'clock is so early for a party to go until the cops come. That's a 12-hour party.
It's a 12-hour party.
Yeah, no one could do it but Doug.
Only Doug. You got to see little
so
Doug.
Cute.
So if you, look into it, maybe this kind of, like I said, this would be the day after Valentine's Day. So I guess that's Saturday, I believe. I think it's February 15th. Doug's Winter Party. Google it if you're on TikTok, look it up. I'm sure it's on all the social media now. And then after it happens, I'll talk about it on the next
This time
Off Brand.
next week, Doug is going to be in the Slammer.
Oh my God. I hope he does end up in prison.
He partied too hard. He broke the law. That is so cute. I love that as a segment for Off Brand.
Yeah.
So you do that, and then I'll recount what I've learned in AARP magazine.
I love that. Both of the things that bring us pure joy.
I was so happy. There's a day where it doesn't happen all the time, but certain months, everything will line up, and I'll get my AARP magazine and my Westways AAA catalog magazine on the same day.
I gotta say, Westways. For 20 years. I get my Westways, and I'm yeah, maybe I will go camping. I should keep this because it's telling me what the 18 best camping spots in California are. I'm finally at the point where I don't even really look at I get rid of Westways.
Sure. You barely check your mail to begin with. I can't believe there ever was a time you were hanging on to a Westways.
I know. My box is busting.
Is it busting right now?
It was 2 days ago. Thank God I went and got it. It was busting.
What does your mail carrier do if the box is busting?
He usually will tell me. I have a good relationship with my mail carrier.
He's like, John, check your damn mail. It's busting.
He's such a nice guy.
That's cute.
He shouts when I have a package, and I yell, thank you. He's
That's nice.
He's a sweet guy.
We love our mail carriers.
Hi, this is Chris Howard, host of Plugged In with Chris Howard. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from Major League Baseball, NHL, and UFC, and professional golf, BetOnline remains the number one source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline's casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.
If you're looking to streamline your audio advertising buys and maximize your revenue, look no further than Triton Digital's programmatic audio advertising exchange, A2X. The private exchange consists of only licensed broadcasters and top-tier internet radio publishers, assuring the quality inventory and brand safety you can trust. Visit www.tritondigital.com to learn more.
All right, so should we get into the show?
Let's get into it. Tell me about Melting Pot.
Well, before we get there, I thought maybe it wouldn't be a show unless I did a little bit of history. So why don't we talk about the history of Valentine's Day?
Ooh.
So, this is something I was thinking about. You and David, when I first knew you guys as a couple, and for several years, you were very loving. You've never been physically affectionate couple.
I've never been a PDA person.
I've never seen you two kiss. I've never seen you hold hands.
Not even on our wedding day.
Not even on your wedding day. They held up a little pixelated thing so we couldn't see your lips touch.
Behind privacy, yes.
You're very private, yet you are very affectionate. You would go on date nights. You're a very loving couple.
Yes.
Do you feel, and I'm not projecting this, do you feel like that has waned at all since you've had children?
It definitely changes. You have to be more strategic about planning a date night more. And we do go out on date nights, but it just requires more planning, especially with kids. You have to find somebody to watch the kids and all that. But now that you're saying this, I feel like fondue is kind of like a great date night.
I gotta say, I wasn't literally chubbing, but I've been chubbing researching fondue. The last 4 nights, I'm I just want, and you know what I thought might scratch the itch is going to the Tam O'Shanter and getting that rare bit.
Which is funny that fondue would be a romantic meal, because can you think of anything you would want to do less after eating hot cheese, meat cooked in oil, and strawberries dunked in milk chocolate than get it on?
Then
make love to your betrothed. Can you believe it?
No, I think that is a very good point.
Oh, God, it seems awful.
You're just all I feel like you'd be gurgling.
You're gurgling, you're gassy, you're burping, you're farting, you're rolling. Well, not me. I've never farted in front of my husband, as I've said.
Not.
But
you're affectionate, not that affectionate.
Not that affectionate. It just feels what would be the perfect pre-coital meal? It might just be
a wedge salad.
A wedge salad. When David comes home and he asks what's for dinner, and I say it's a wedge salad, he knows he's getting lucky.
He's sounds good, honey.
You got to be light on your feet. You know what I mean? Because anything else weighing you down, it's just too easy just to roll over and go to bed.
Yeah, you can't have carbonara.
No, no carbonara.
All right, so the history of Valentine's Day and its patron saint is kind of mysterious because, of course, it is, because all this stuff is just centuries old.
Yes.
There's so many different cupids shooting their arrows at the tail.
I love that.
But February has, for a very long time, been associated as a month of fertility originally, and then romance.
Ooh.
And has roots in both Christian and ancient Roman traditions. So the Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different saints named either Valentine or Valentinus. I cracked my knuckle when I made that point. I only have, you'll hear, I literally have 1 or 2 knuckles that'll crack my whole life. I do that. People in school would do that. It would be it's crack, 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 crack. I would do it. It was be ding.
I've never heard you crack.
Yeah, you're like a jock in a locker room. I'm one little ding.
It sounded like you're about to get your butt kicked.
So all of these saints, they were all martyred. Obviously, I've made jokes before. This person was so old, they're only a painting. These bitches are so old, they're stained glass.
Oh, wow.
They're old.
Wow.
So they're paintings and stained glass. And I will say, some of them are hot.
Okay.
Some of them are not.
I mean, also, like, were they hot? Because if I was going to be, like, immortalized in glass or, like, marble, it'd be like, help me out as much as you can.
Yeah, just use less glass and make me slimmer. You don't have to use that big piece of glass.
Honey, save the glass.
So one of the legends was that Valentine was a priest from the 3rd century in Rome. And at that time, Emperor Claudius II, also known as Claudius the Cruel, outlawed marriage because he believed single men would make better soldiers. If they were married or had kids, their mind would be distracted. So he outlawed marriage.
It's so weird.
So Valentine was all like, no way, queen. And he still conducted marriages. Claudius the Cruel did not like that. You can imagine what Claudius the Cruel would then do.
Well, live up to his name.
Have him killed.
Yeah.
Not only have him killed, have his head cut off.
Oh, people used to do that. A guillotine in the town square with a basket for the head to plop in. Can you imagine?
You know what I feel like? I feel like recently I have read, and God, I'm going to get the whole nation of France against me, that France was still using the guillotine like when Star Wars came out in like 1977. It was like one of those things, like history facts that you're like will really like change your perception of time.
Was this a clickbait where you had to click the arrow like 30 times to get to it?
All those arrows to learn all these historic facts.
Those ads on those clickbait, have we talked about this? The ads on the clickbait articles where it's like the toe fungus cure your doctor doesn't want you to know about.
Why doesn't he want me to know?
I don't know, but a lot of them are themed as like your doctor's, he's shivering in his boots that people are going to find out about this toe fungus cure. It's like crazy, these ads.
The ones that I would get for years was, what's her name? Gabby, the woman that played Precious.
Oh, yeah. You'll never believe
what she looks like now. I would click through 75 pictures. She wasn't in any of them. I would always be like, we're at 74. I'm sure they're saving the best for last.
I mean, and I've done this too, where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to Google it. Yeah, I'm just going to, I'm going to take my question. I'm just going to Google it because surely if it's something shocking, and then half the time it's not even true.
Yeah, you Google it and you're like, I don't want to be insensitive, but she looks the same.
It'll be like, or Blair from Facts of Life. That's one that I always see. It's like Blair from Facts of Life. You won't believe how bad she looks. And I look it up. She's like, she looks great.
She looks great. She was literally did like a Facts of Life like spoof thing on TV like 3 years ago in her like Eastland uniform, looked identical.
Wow.
Like 50 years later.
Unreal.
And you know her because she was on Survivor.
Yes. I only know her from Survivor. And I'm like, I want to see more of this gal. Oh, Facts of Life.
That's so funny. I just saw something else with that. Someone had Sabrina Carpenter had Sean Austin play Santa Claus in one of her music videos. And someone was interviewing her and being like, wow, you had Samwise in your music video. And she was like, honestly? She's like, we're different generations. She knew him from something completely different that he was in, like, I don't know, Dancing with the Stars or something silly like that.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Oh, one of the things I wanted to mention about that St. Valentine was before he got killed and before his head got cut off, he was in jail and apparently had feelings for the jailer's daughter and left her a note and signed it from your Valentine. So who knows if that's true? A lot of these things, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm calling bullshit on that, but it's just the story that is kind of, how we got to like Valentine's cards.
Wow, that would be very romantic. You're a jailer's daughter and you start getting love letters from an inmate.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How
from
romantic.
A good guy, too.
Yeah, good guy.
So they put him to death when? February 14th.
Okay, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love that they're like, he died definitely February 14th. Around 270. It's like, the day that he died, but not the year. It seems psychotic.
It's a little suspect.
Sometimes,
that's okay.
Yeah.
For the lore.
But because of his actions in wanting to preserve marriage, he was given sainthood after his death.
I love a saint.
All right. So, I said there was 3 different St. Valentine's Day, the priest in Rome, a bishop in Italy, a martyr in Africa. Who knows where it all originated? Probably over the years, they all got meshed together. One thing that I did think was interesting that a lot of people think there's a connection between Valentine's Day and this feast of Lupercalia, which was a pagan festival where goats were killed. Their skin was removed.
No.
Women were swatted with their pelts to encourage fertility.
Oh, God. Did it work?
Yeah, they all got pregnant. They all had twins. And people are like, that's definitely the basis of Valentine's Day.
Wow.
And then other people are like, it had nothing to do with Valentine's Day.
That's why I always do that. That's how I celebrate Valentine's Day.
I know. I've been there. I've had to kill the goat.
We do an escape room. We come back to our place. We go in the backyard. We kill the goat. Everyone slaps me. Just trying to get knocked up.
That is one of my favorite days of the year. All right, so there's a little bit about Valentine's Day. And again, I know people don't have Valentine's Day parties, so you may not have a party to go to give out this trivia, but I do like to imagine that this is trivia you could whisper in your lover's ear before you make love. Or
I love that.
Pillow talk while you're watching a romantic comedy with Meg Ryan or whoever's the hot new gal of America.
The hot new gal of America. Honestly, I don't think we've had anybody replace Meg Ryan yet. I think we're still waiting.
I mean, listen, full disclosure, Meg Ryan at her prime, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, all of them. So good.
We rewatched Sleepless in Seattle, David and I, over Christmas break. I don't think he'd ever seen it. Oh my God.
It's so good.
What a film.
So good. Rosie O'Donnell in it is so good. She's like, go get up. Like, she sends her out. And
Tom Hanks, the way he looks at someone when he's in love with them just knocks you off your goddamn feet. Can you imagine him looking at you like that? The look of love from Tom Hanks. Rita Wilson
is
that
the
lucky
luckiest bitch in the world. Always trying to get her music career going, having
bless her
Tom
heart.
Hanks. And, you know, Rita Wilson, I believe, unless I'm crazy, movie fans tell me if I'm wrong, that's why the volleyball was named Wilson.
I think so, yes. Wow. Instead of Spalding. I think that might be.
Spalding! Man, I love that movie.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is great.
All right, so there's some trivia for you to whisper in your lover's ear. Now, quickly, let's go through the history of fondue.
Actually, you know what would be so cute is if two lovers were listening to this episode in shared AirPods. What are they called? AirPods.
Wow. Share AirPods?
They're in shared AirPods.
Are you talking about their headphones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like one in each ear at the melting pot.
Yeah, that would be super cute.
Do you sit on the same side as your lover or across from each other at a restaurant?
Babe, I haven't had a date in 75 years.
On a date, what would be your preference? Side by side with a lover or looking in your lover's eyes? I mean, with those baby blues, we know what your lover wants to do.
I think across. Sitting next to each other, I feel like we're off topic a lot in this episode. But I randomly watched the first episode of the new Kardashian show on Hulu, which actually started like 3 years ago. Like 2 hours ago before I came here.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
My repulsion of the physical affection between Courtney and the guy from Blink-182, Travis, they can't not be kissing. I hope that tapers off.
Oh, it doesn't. You wait till they're in like the fertility clinic.
They're like going to look at houses, and like the guy shows them the backyard. He sits on the couch and she straddles him.
There's a lot of straddling. Yeah, my marriage is pretty low on social straddling.
You definitely aren't pulling a Blink-182.
No, definitely not.
All right, so if you don't know what fondue is, basically it's a pot of melted something that you dip other things in. Traditionally, it was a pot of melted cheese. Okay, so, you know, like Valentine's Day fondue also, its history, I mean, it's probably pretty accurate, but there's different stories. Some believe it goes back to the 1600s in Switzerland, when in the winters it was really hard to have fresh food. So they would have bread that they had made, but it would get stale. So some guy at one point was like, I have this old cheese, I've got this old wine, let's put this in a pot. Just dips his bread in it, it softens it up, and it made it something he could eat, and he creates an iconic lover's dish.
I know there is a fondue set rattling around in my mom's garage.
There's a fondue set rattling around in everyone's garage. Because in the 1970s, it was the gift to give.
Yeah, was it like a good wedding gift? You're like a housewarming gift?
Yes.
Wow.
It was what everybody, I remember that as a kid, like not having one, but it was just like someone got married, you go get them a fondue set, I think, or a set of knives.
Those long little forks.
I love the little forks.
So cute.
There is a recipe in a 1699 book called Kas mit Wein zu Kuchen, which means to cook cheese with wine, which called for grated or cut up cheese to be melted with wine and for bread to be dipped in it. 1735 is the first use of the word fondre, which means to melt in France. eventually over time that gets turned into fondue, which means melted.
It sounds so good. I'm so hungry for fondue
Babe,
right
I can't
now.
even tell you. Like, and then I saw a thing that were like, the melting pot is doing fondue to go. And I was like, and I like looked up, I think maybe they only did it for the holidays. But man, I'm all in on just a Netflix, like watching a current movie where I don't have to leave the house and just a bag of cheese that I microwave and dip some bread in it.
You're talking about literally a to-go cup full of fondue.
Yeah.
It's a mug of cheese.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Like, I don't have to go to a restaurant and like sit there.
I feel like what you're paying for is like the experience.
I'm fine experiencing that at home.
Is there a good, and maybe you're going to be talking about this later, is there a good at home? Have you come across, like, does Trader Joe's have like a fondue, whatever? And does anybody have that?
I didn't look into that at all. I'm sure there is.
You know what I have heard? That unexpected cheddar dip from Trader Joe's, which I do have some in my fridge right now. It's basically like half cheese, half butter. And I have heard some people melt that. So maybe we could try that.
You're a big fan of the unexpected cheddar.
I love the unexpected cheddar. It is so salty. It's almost like Parmesan-y kind of cheddar. It's so good.
Well, I think for the most part, like the basic fondue, cheese fondue is just Gruyere. And what's the one that starts with an E?
Like Emmental.
Emmanuel.
An
Emmanuel and a Gruyere from Switzerland. It's basically those two cheeses with some white wine.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about wine being in there. I wonder why. What does the wine do? Just adds a little something, a little zip?
I guess a little zip and a little cornstarch keeps it smooth. I feel like we could pull this together ourselves pretty easily.
Fantastic.
So in the 1930s, the Swiss Cheese Union really wanted to ramp up the consumption of cheese. It reminded me of like the Got Milk campaign. Like all of a sudden you've got this like, we're the board of this one product for this country. How do we get everyone in the country on board? What would use a lot of cheese? Fondue. So then they really like market fondue like crazy in the 30s. It's in newspaper ads, it's in brochures, it's in films, radio, television. They came up with a slogan for it, which, I mean, I can try to say it. Fondue ish guten, whatever. It stands for fondue is good and gives a good mood.
Oh.
I mean, that's basically like Got Milk. Like everyone was saying, this was on the rolling off the lips of every Swissman.
Wow. Do you think Swiss soap operas like they are here just had all the characters eating fondue?
Yeah. Every time they tried to like whistle, a big cheese bubble would blow. So yeah, basically fondue was branded as the symbol of like Swiss unity. Right. Everyone also loved that it was like a communal thing. It brought people together.
We need that.
In both 1939 and 64, Americans were introduced to fondue at the Swiss Pavilion at the New York World's Fairs. So 1939, they got a little taste of it. 1964 is when it really kind of was like, wow, what is this? And that's kind of what launched the craze here in America.
Wow, a craze, a fondue craze. I mean, back then too, like, it feels like that was like fondue is sweeping America by storm. That was probably like a news story.
It really was.
Sure.
I have one very fun little thing at the very end of this that is kind of that mindset to me. All right, so then let's talk about a guy named There's so many words in here that are foreign that I'm sure I'm butchering, and I apologize. This guy's name is Conrad Egli, E-G-L-I, and he was a Swiss restaurateur. And he had a fondue restaurant in New York City. And he is serving the normal cheese fondue that everybody loves. His has garlic wine and those two cheeses that we talked about. And then in 1956, he is credited with inventing that oil fondue where you dip, like you cook raw meat in it.
Yes, there's some, I've seen that in restaurants.
They have that at the melting pot too.
Yeah.
So basically you either get mushrooms or cut up meat or whatever, and the hot pot of oil, and you cook it in there and eat it.
You got a little deep fryer at your table.
Yeah. And then 11 years later, because of the success of that, the people of Swiss asked him if there was anything he could do to lift up Toblerone, which is, if you didn't know, was a Swiss chocolate.
Very near and dear to both of our hearts.
So he is also credited with inventing the chocolate fondue.
Wow.
So he basically is the guy that created... Your lover right now is like, they thought they were just going to sleep. If you just finished making love, if you're in the middle of making love, pull out, roll over, because you're not going to believe this.
The Hattons are definitely listening to this while they're intimate on Valentine's Day.
Corey Hatton, let me just say.
If anybody is, it's them.
You're welcome. So he gets credit for both of that. And then the Swiss Cheese Union aggressively marketed fondue in the U.S. as being a staple of New England winter. So it was trying to give it that whole identity of like, that then reminds me of like Campbell's soup, where they're like, you got that kid who's a snowman and he comes into the house and it all melts away because he has a hot bowl of soup.
It's cold outside, it's warm inside.
Stick your face in a bowl of cheese. And then in the 70s, the fondue craze it literally did kind of sweep the nation. You had Julia Child on TV doing it. Fondue kits became very prevalent. And it was also if you think about it, it was like a time in America where like chafing dishes were really popular. Like in the 60s, like you would have a party and you would have like those little burners.
Yes.
And then like just a ton of chafing dishes with hot things. And fondue kind of fit into that whole like, I got to have this metal contraption to like serve my thing.
Boiling hot food for my guests.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, now we're really going to get into the cheese of the show.
Fantastic.
75 minutes into it. I wrote this is the shortest episode I've ever worked.
We're just excited to be gabbing.
All right, so now I want to talk about Bruce Knoechel and Roy Nelson. So these are two buddies that went to high school together, and they always had this dream of owning their own business. They thought it'd be really fun to work for themselves, design your own life, work your own hours, all of those things. They go to college, they get their degrees in business administration, they graduate. Bruce moves back in with his parents. Roy marries his girlfriends. They're working as waiters, but they still have this dream of going into business for themselves. And in their head, they're thinking about like, what would that mean? What would we do? And the one thing they kept coming back to was that you had to have something really different in order to compete. Like they didn't want to just like start a business that someone else had done and try to go against them. They wanted to do something that nobody had really done before. So these guys are in their early 20s, and I am so happy to say, as I said in the intro, they are hot.
Oh, what a thrill.
They're hot.
We were due.
One of them has like a 70s porn mustache, which I'm like living for. The other one's his picture's a little blurry, kind of like a Sasquatch, but I'm like, that I think is a hot,
you can tell. It comes through.
And I know there's been debate whether old can be hot. They are early 20s.
Okay, so we know where you fall.
Young. It's much easier for young to be hot than old to be hot.
It's possible to be hot when you're old, but it does get a bit more challenging.
Yes, and it is very easy to be hot when you're in your 20s.
It's just so creamy. That was what we always say when we would see young people, that they're so their skin is just so creamy.
Man, this feels off-brand.
Somebody's listening to this, they're like, I'm 21. Am I creamy? Look in a mirror.
They think I'm creamy.
You are.
They cancel all memberships, leave our Instagram. So these hot 20-year-old men decide to have a fondue party for some friends.
That's fun.
The party's a huge hit, and Bruce has this aha moment, and he tells Roy that they should open a fondue restaurant. And Roy's like, here's the thing. We know nothing about restaurant business. We didn't go to school for that. The most education we have on that is being waiters. But the more they talked about it, the more that it started to make sense. It did fit into that category of something different. I mean, it almost seems now kind of like a no-brainer, even though now it seems like it would be gone. But like fondue was so hot in the 70s, like why wouldn't you make, what is great about it is it takes away, for people like me that probably wanted to do fondue, it seems fun to do at home, but you got to go buy all the things, cut it all up, clean it all up, melt the thing. It's just me alone watching All in the Family, like Archie Bunker, like eating like chunks of like bread.
It definitely feels like it's easier to experience at a restaurant than the overhead required.
The overhead is exactly what they talk about next. He's like, not only that is the overhead is going to be so low, because I had never thought about this. You don't have to have a traditional restaurant chef.
That's true.
You basically just have to have sous chefs.
Wow, it's kind of like the self-checkout of restaurants. I'm cooking the food.
Yeah, it is.
Where's my
basically, you have the waiter making the pots of cheese tableside, and the customer cooking the food themselves.
God, I love like a tableside guacamole, a tableside salad.
I love a tableside like Caesar salad where they like, and I think I don't like anchovies, though. I did have a sample at anchovy at Whole Foods, and I gotta say, didn't hate it.
I could see you getting into anchovies.
Tinned fish is like the hot thing now.
It's having a moment.
Everyone's got like fancy tinned fish. Like the containers are really cute.
Yes.
And this lady's like, would you like some, like a sardine? And I was like, no, I'm not psycho. She's like, try it. She put it on.
Was she a seal?
She was a seal. I mean, I'm interpreting. She was like, oh, and I was like, okay. She puts a sardine on a potato chip.
Oh.
Good.
Okay. I
It had,
can
like,
see
some-
you. We'll have to tune in to see if sardines are on brand for you.
I
on
will say,
Patreon.
since then, I have been at the store and I've looked at cans of sardines and I can't commit to buying a whole can. But
You want to buy them, just buy the Dean.
yeah, I just want one. Let me get 2 Deans and 2 potato chips. So they started to see all of these positive reasons to do it, and more importantly, they would be fulfilling their
Yes.
dream.
Love that.
In their early 20s. And like, what better time to try something like this than when you're young? Like, they're fearless. One of them's living at home, so he has no expenses. The other one has gotten married. His wife is a teacher, so she's making enough money at the time that she can support them if he wants to try this.
It really helps to have like youthful folly to like enter a fondue, the fondue business.
The one thing that people always say, and I'll never forget it, if you want to start a fondue restaurant, do it when you're young. Do it when you're young.
When you're old, you're too jaded. It's not going to work
You're
out.
like that crusty bread. What do you want to be? Do you want to be the crusty bread or the bubbly cheese?
I tell you what, I feel more like the crusty bread these
Bitch,
days.
I've been the bread for like 25 since birth. I came out a loaf. There's our next patch. I came out a loaf. So they spent the next 6 weeks looking for the perfect location. They finally rent this really large space because they saw it as great potential for expanding. And what they did was kind of smart. They cut it in half with a divider, sublet half of it out
smart.
to a dance studio.
Oh, okay. Tip-a-tap-a-tip-a-tap-a-tip-tap-tap.
Clippity clop, clop, clop. Dipping some cheese on one side, tap dancing on the other.
Oh, and actually, that's fun. After a big tap class, you're all sweaty, you're exhausted.
You're totally, the only thing that would satisfy after a hot tap dance is a hot bowl of cheese.
Quench your thirst with some boiling hot cheese.
Oh man, now I wish I had written a reenactment for this where someone's like new, like someone had like one of the like best people in the tap class finally got up the courage to like tap over into the restaurant, just dip one little thing and eat it and tap back.
That would be nice.
So they find the space and they give themselves this crash course on restauranting because they really didn't know anything about it. So they go to like federal, state, and local offices. They learn all the rules, how to get all the permits and everything that
We
they
did that
need.
for podcasting also.
We did.
We got
went
the
down-
permits. Went downtown. You and me in our power suits with our briefcases.
We went into Best Buy, into the headphone aisle, and like, just tell me everything that you can tell me. Man, I want to rant right now on Best Buy from years ago, but I won't. We'll save that for off-brand.
Save it.
I mean, it's not even. She just sucked. Anyway,
She
was like this teenage girl. Oh,
Save it,
God,
save
I
it,
hate her
save
so
it.
much. And then I
Save
went
it.
and told on her.
save it.
Okay. So they have the space, and then it's all about what is this restaurant going to look like. So they decided to go with like a dark interior.
Ooh, very moody.
I love trying to imagine this. I did see some pictures from old newspaper articles, so they're very like
Were you at the microfiche downtown?
basically kind of. So the foyer had like a bunch of hanging plants, and the boys kind of built everything themselves. They made these like butcher block like type tables.
Is
out
there
of,
anything hot boys can't do?
I mean, give me a 22-year-old boy with a 2x4, a hammer, some melted cheese running down his cheek. I'm in heaven. They build like the chairs and the food prep tables. They do like of course, wood paneling because
Of course,
it's the 70s.
Yes, even the plants. I'm imagining that they're like all ferns.
Yes, of course. It said the ceiling was draped tented style in
Ooh.
burlap.
Oh, unexpected choice.
Unexpected. And then even more unexpected, yet so obvious. Bruce had a vision of making chandeliers throughout. It was a very small space, too. I think it only had 4 tables.
Oh.
In the beginning.
How big is this dance studio?
They get rid of the dance studio within a year and
Okay.
expand all the way out. But Bruce wanted chandeliers made from wine bottles.
Oh.
The 70s.
Shabby chic.
Shabby chic. He tried over and over to try to build one in his house. It didn't work. He got his dad on board. They kept trying different glues. Every day they'd come home, one bottle would have fallen and shattered. They ended up figuring it out, and that was their lighting situation there.
They are
Chandeliers.
still wine bottles. They cracked the code?
Yes, they
Okay.
stayed with the wine bottles.
I mean,
and that was mentioned in one of the
God.
restaurant reviews I read about it. The lovely lighting through the bottles.
oh, wow.
Okay, so now they kind of have the look. They have the space. Now the name. They knew. They wanted to call it the Melting Pot. They had gone to city planning and zoning. They had taken care of all the paperwork. That is what the restaurant was going to be. We're now in March of 1975. So the boys go to, I love that I call them the boys, just because they're like hot cheese boys. The hot cheese boys go to a city council meeting, and it was really just as a courtesy. They didn't need permission for anything. They were just kind of there like, we're all in this city together. We're opening this new restaurant. It'll be opening soon. Just letting you know we're here.
Wow.
So they go in. And then city councilman, as I like to call him, dildo city councilman, who is not hot.
I'm sorry, what?
Dildo.
That's a name?
That's my slur on him because he's a dildo.
What's his name?
Oh, city councilman George Wainwright. AKA City Councilman Dildo.
This took me a long time to catch up on.
I know. I'm worried that I'm taking too long now. No. So out of nowhere, this city councilman, George Wainwright, aka Dildo, he's like, so what's the name of the restaurant going to be? And they're like, oh my God, we're calling it the Melting Pot. You hear people like, oh my God, that's so cute. I love it. That's going to be so great in the neighborhood.
I mean, if anything a hot guy tells you, you're going to like the idea.
Not Dildo George Wainwright. He gets a very serious look on his face, and he's like, with all due respect, I object to that name. People chuckle because they think he's kidding.
Joking.
He's known for his sense of humor.
Okay.
He's serious. He's like, no, I'm being very serious here. And if you plan on calling that, I will do everything I can to stop that. He has no power. Like I said, they're not there to get permission at all.
Why does he care? There's always one person like this.
Why does he care? Because he says by calling it the Melting Pot, you're telling people that it would undignify the downtown area of their city by giving the illusion it doesn't contain the highest type of people. He literally did not want them to think that they lived in what America is, like a melting pot of people from everywhere. He was just a racist man.
Did he not know that it was a fondue restaurant? Because was that part of their layer of like why they were calling it the Melting Pot? Or
yes,
were they,
of course. People were excited. They knew that it was a fondue restaurant.
A term that has a positive connotation. This is a very, I hope he drowned in a boiling pot of Gruyere.
Now do you see why I refer to him as the dildo city councilman George Wainwright, who is not hot?
I do now see. And I haven't even seen a picture of him.
Oh,
he's not ugly as a dog.
He's exactly what you think he looks like.
You know, he was mad that these two hot boys were telling him what's what.
Yeah. So the good thing is, like I've said 3 times now, they didn't need permission.
Yeah.
They were like, okay. I like to think they're like, yeah, dildo. And sauteed out of there and then made out in their car.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Okay, so one of the more interesting things I learned about the Melting Pot, we've talked about it, it's kind of like you think of it as the 80s, you think of it as kind of dark, it's kind of like an older feel to it.
Yes.
Their plan, because they're 2 hot young 20-year-olds going into this was going to be a college hotspot.
Oh, okay.
So they thought like college kids would come here late at night, they would drink, they would have their bowls of cheese.
Flirting over a bowl of cheese.
Flirting it, flicking cubes of cheese across the room, catching it in their mouths.
That's how I flirt.
Ripping their shirts open.
Yes.
Like a cube of bread gets stuck on their nipple. They start licking it off of it. Sorry,
That's
I'm not doing a reenactment
cube of bread to get stuck on a nipple.
So
I mean, it could get stuck on your nipple.
What? Now you're going to say my nipples are like fondue forks? Is that what you want to say?
You know, the show's long, so I won't go too far into it, but yes.
Show's not the only thing that's long. Now I'm making fun of my own nipples?
What's longer, the show or John's nipples?
So the plan was for it to be for these college kids. Their liquor license took much longer than they thought it was going to take. So all of a sudden they had to open because they had to pay rent and they weren't going to get their liquor license for 2 months.
Wow.
So they decided for those 2 months they were just going to give out liquor for free. They knew that if they gave out liquor to free to college kids, they would literally go bankrupt. So they directed all their marketing to an older crowd.
Wow,
to like
smart.
the old people of Florida.
Who will have like a little glass of sherry.
Just one. Could I have maybe a port after dinner? Port. Ugh, don't even get me started on port. So they have a little sherry and a little port, and that's what became the identity of
That's
this restaurant.
so funny because I do not think of it at all as a college destination.
Who does?
I would think of it as like elegant date night for a couple in their 80s. Grandma and grandpa are getting a little loose.
I think of it as like first date night for a couple in their 80s.
Oh, yes.
Their spouses have both passed.
Their spouses have both passed. They're both widower, and they're getting back out there.
They met on not hot old people grind. All right, so now we've got their clientele, we've got it all. The Melting Pot finally opens in April of 1975. 5 minutes before they open, fun fact, one of the chandeliers falls.
Oh, no.
Not just a bottle, the whole thing.
No.
They had to sweep up all the glass.
Oh, no.
The first 3 nights are for private parties and friends and family. They kind of iron out the kinks on how everything's going to work. They don't have any money, so like people will pay for their dinner. They would run across the street to the convenience store to like make change. These 2 hot guys, I don't know about you, like as I'm picturing this, they're naked. Like they're just running this whole thing nude.
Sure.
They do everything in the beginning. It's literally just the 2 of them. They're taking reservations. They're making the salads. They're making the fondue, waiting tables, washing the dishes for like several months.
Unreal.
An article I read, and of course this was probably written by a contemporary of mine, described them as being a delight to watch in action. Of course they are.
I'm sure.
Of course, some old queer in Florida probably still thinking about Bruce and Roy.
I mean, just park yourself in a booth and watch the show.
Oh my
These
God.
2 boys, it's like a dance.
It's like if it was like a sitcom, they're like just like staring at them in awe as they're eating their fondue, and then they accidentally dip their bread in a candle and they like eat the wax, and everyone
That's
laughs.
you.
Yeah. They're using the money they make each night to buy the groceries for the next day. They're really like kind of hanging on, but within a year and a half, they're successful enough. They're able to get rid of the dance studio. They make a banquet hall out of that space. Banquet hall, I don't know. I'm a little confused by the size because they did say that it was a very small space to begin with.
That's a tiny. I mean, maybe banquet doesn't imply big. There could be a small banquet.
The staff grows to be up to like 16 people. It's a huge success. And then they hire Mark Johnson as a waiter for them. And I bring him up because he's very important. Every story you find out about the Melting Pot is about the guy I'm about to talk about.
Oh.
No one talks about the 2 people that actually started it.
The 2 hot boys who started the restaurant.
2 hot boys. And I only found them yesterday because I was like, this story is too thin. So then I started going through newspaper archives.
And you're like, there were hot people all along?
No, why is it? Oh, these new guys scrubbed out all the hotness from these people.
Crazy.
All right. So then they hire a waiter named Mark Johnson. It's the late 1970s. He gets a job as a waiter to help pay for college, and he just really loves it. So
How hot is he, 1 to 10?
You know, I've only seen pictures of him old, so not hot. He's not hot. I would like to think maybe he was hot when he's younger.
Sure.
I just don't have those pictures.
He's friends with these boys. He probably was.
So he loves it so much that he convinces his brother Mike to open a franchise of the Melting Pot in Tallahassee, Florida. They do it. It goes so well. They open another one in Tampa. And that one does so well that they start to see this huge opportunity with this company. They go to Bruce and Roy with their other brother and like, we just want to buy the Melting Pot.
Oh, okay.
Just sell us the whole thing.
Whoa.
Which they do. So now these 3 brothers,
Wow.
and I don't know for how much, but they sell the entire business to these 2 boys. I don't know what Bruce and Roy went on to. I assume they got married and lived a very sexy gay life. I mean, it was 70s going into 80s. That could have had a dark ending.
It could have had a dark ending.
I should have written a whole reenactment for this. It's like play the theme of Philadelphia.
This is an 8-part series.
We did not expect this to be the...
How many people have written fan fiction about the 2 boys who created the Melting Pot?
Bruce and Roy and the melted cheese. It's like an adventure series.
Uh-huh.
Bruce and Roy get forked. Oh, man, I could really think of a whole series. I could do this. Bruce and Roy skinny dipping.
Okay.
Man, it really writes itself.
itself.
So they basically take over it. And then I gotta say, so this is 1985 when they buy the Melting Pot, 10 years after it opened.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the story is Dullsville.
Sometimes that happens.
Just boring brothers. They go into it. They're like, you know what we're going to do? Slow growth. So for like the next 20 years, every year they open 2 to 3 restaurants.
Okay, yeah, very sensible, but quite boring for us.
So
yes.
boring. And it's like, cool. building a brand. Now they call it a legacy brand. Kind of kept the look. And fondue, man, was on a journey for those 30 years. It was like popular in the 70s, not in the 80s. Came back in the 90s, not in the early 2000s. 2005, big fondue moment. Then it went away. 2010. It's like a roller coaster of cheese over the decades. You know, they just slowly sailed their ship for the next like 40 years. Like I said, did I say it already? This is their 50th anniversary. It's 1975.
Amazing.
That was one of my facts at the end.
That's a fun fact.
No,
Well,
it's not. I had doing a thing at the end. Is it a fun fact or just a fact?
This one is just a fact.
I have a hint. Only one is fun.
Okay.
Okay.
So wait, where are we on the fondue timeline? Are we coming out of a fondue recession or are we entering a fondue boom?
Right now?
Yes, right now, 2025.
Oh, man, that is a great question after COVID. So there was, well, we're jumping the gun. Let me get through the next, I mean, there's only a handful of things, but we'll get to it. So by 2005, why do I keep saying, who ever said, I said it like that twice. By 2005, am I nervous?
I thought it was like, you're really nervous.
By 2005.
2005.
By 2005, they opened their 100th location in Pasadena, California. So now they're by this point, they're all over the country. We had one in Ohio. Like there used to be one actually, I remember that one in Pasadena in Old Town. Not there anymore.
Darn.
2010, they went international. They started opening in Canada and Mexico. They'd eventually go to Jakarta, Indonesia, Dubai.
Wow.
All of them are gone.
Yeah, that feels like not meant to last.
That was like, that does feel like a 2010 move.
A bit of a hazinga.
Yeah. Let's see if Jakarta is going to want some hot cheese. Dubai, the desert screams.
Bye-bye.
Do bye-bye-bye hot cheese. So those all failed. There's literally the only if you go on their website, the only international location is one in Canada still.
I was going to say, Canada's like cold. It feels like at least a place, maybe a snowy locale might lend itself to some hot cheese.
Yeah. And you know how I said in 2005 there was 100 locations?
Yeah.
Down to 93.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
But you know what? They're still strong. I mean, 90, like, they're like...
That's solid.
It's solid.
How many, where's the closest melting pot to us right now?
Thousand Oaks.
Okay.
And there was like a food... Okay. Valentine's Day, first the escape room, and then some hot cheese.
Honestly... Yes,
Yeah.
we would be covering a lot of ground in this great city of angels if we went up to Thousand Oaks and then to Inglewood, but we can do it. I'm in.
You know, but I do have to give them the credit. They were able to navigate COVID. Right before COVID, they had started tinkering around with the idea of take-home fondue. When COVID hit, they were able to do that. So they stayed in business through COVID.
That is quite impressive because fondue is a pretty germ-friendly meal.
Okay, so I thought that too. So, but at first it was just take home. So it's like during the 2019, people are taking home giant bags of cheese and microwaving it.
Great.
But they did say in 2020, 21, 22, their sales increased every year because people were so wanting connection again.
Yes.
And the thing is, it is a communal dish. But remember how like in COVID, like it was all about your bubble. So it's kind of a communal dish within your own bubble because it was a lot of booths. It wasn't like, there wasn't a lot of like open seating.
But are you like, is the fork going in your mouth and then entering the pot?
If it's me, yeah. It's like I'm licking it like a lollipop. If it's Al, no, the fork never touches the skin. It just depends on the type of person you are. But it's like if we all went together.
Yes, yeah.
Like, you know, there was a time where you kind of like...
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the owner kept
it.
saying, and maybe he was just saying this to like boost sales, but he's like, people feel very safe in the melting pot during the pandemic.
I believe it.
So, you know.
I've never felt as safe as I have been in a melting pot.
When any natural disaster hits, I head to Thousand Oaks and get to the melting pot. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. They did well then. They managed to survive. They get rid of restaurants if they need to, but they still have a large army. They're still an iconic brand. I'm curious to see what people will say about this brand because I do think it's one that a lot of people have heard of. They either went once or twice in their life. They do consider themselves... They want to be known as the place you go for an event.
Like a special occasion.
For a special occasion.
It feels very like prom.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like, which would kind of explain, I've never been, but because I thought it was so expensive. But if somebody's listening, I'm curious if you have been, is it a place you go like for lunch on a Tuesday? Or is it like, oh no, it was like my grandma's 80th birthday. It was our winter formal. It was like, feels like that.
Yeah. And they try to come up with like kind of little gimmicky things. I think they have something on Thursdays called like Thursdates. So it's like, it's like for couples like you and David who are like, ooh, Thursday. Well, let's do that
That sounds great. I wish it was a little bit closer. I'd definitely
maybe Al and I will go. We'll make it a 4-way.
Oh, that would be great.
And then I think they had like a friends night. Like they're trying to now, they've changed their logo. Like they were very like set in the past, and now they're trying to modernize. Their logo looks much more modern now. They're trying to like make the eating experience a little shorter. Because I will say, in one of the articles I read from when it first opened, they were like, expect to stay there for about an hour a course. It's a 3 or 4 course meal. So people were going there with the expectation of being there for 3 to 4 hours.
Wow. Tell the babysitter, don't wait up.
Yeah. So now they're like, how can we cut this down? It's probably like it's like a boba, just a thing of cheese with a big thick straw.
Yeah, big thick straw. That's really smart.
How to get that down to like an hour. They
Slurp that down and then hit the sack with your lover.
Oh, man.
Roll in the hay.
They're trying to have more open spaces and just, make it. They're trying to stay relevant. I got to give them that. They're kind of like they're not an Eeyore of a brand, but there is something about them that's like, okay, you're doing your thing. Am I super excited about it? Maybe. Which brings me to the perfect time to ask you the question that we always ask, but I'll ask in a different way. Are you a fondue or a fondant?
This is tough because after this conversation, I'm like, ravenous to have fondue.
Me too.
And
literally.
I have never thought about it before really in my life.
It's like when I look at you, I see your head as a cube with cheese dripping off of it.
Yeah, but that's most of the time.
I'm hungry.
So I'm going to say fondue because now I'm like obsessed. I feel like we have to go have this experience at the melting pot. And it's it's on brand for me, so it's a fondue.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. It's definitely a fondue. I mean, it is one of those things I could see that I would crave it. And then it's kind of like the rare bit at Tam. I'm halfway and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
You get it.
Yeah, that first few tastes are good, but a bunch of it is probably too much.
Yeah, an hour's worth of cheese might be a lot. I think it was right to maybe condense it a bit.
Yeah, and I think I've just been exposed to other things. Like I've gone to other places where you like cook your own food, like Asian restaurants or Korean barbecue, which I love. There's so many other experiences now.
I love an experience-y meal, a gimmicky meal. That's so fun to me.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite things. My posse from Avatar, maybe twice a year we do Korean barbecue, and it's just so fun.
So fun.
If you haven't done that, I mean, you got, man, talk about getting the meat sweat. I sweat here just talking in an air-conditioned room. Imagine me in front of a grill with piles of meat that we have to cook ourselves.
Do you show up in like a mesh tank top and like a personal fan around your neck?
Yes. I definitely do. It is a hot.
Have you seen like those little ladies in summer? It's like a necklace that kind of goes around halfway and it has like 2 fans that just blast at your face.
Yeah, it's the
dream.
dream.
You need one of those.
Yeah. And then the hat that's got the straw that goes around it that gives you like a nice cold drink with the 2 cups in it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, that's the show. I do have a couple quick things. Okay, this is the one thing I wanted to share with you. This is so cute. This is from like 1976. Someone wrote into the newspaper with this question.
God, every other time was better than this.
If I had a time machine, I would go back to 1976 to this day.
To read this paper.
To write this question. Sometime during the fall, we read an article concerning 2 young boys who had started what sounded like a marvelous place to eat. The article said they prepared the food at your table and the lighting decor was from an arrangement of bottles. We would certainly like to sample their wares. One of our hobbies is eating at all the better and unique places. Can you instruct us on how to find this place? Lamone Vault, Wilma Saybold, Leesburg. It's like an army of people wrote this one thing. And then they're like, that has to be the Melting Pot. Not only a delightful and delicious fondue restaurant that is the work of Bruce and Roy, but like they were like, what was the name of that place? I don't know. Let's write the newspaper. We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Kids these days do not understand. They have no idea
what we had to go through.
If you didn't know something, you had to ride your bike to the library.
Get out, ask for, could I have the microfiche from April 6th, 1975 to May 4th, 1975? And then sit there. Oh. Yeah, they had no
Yeah,
idea.
no idea.
what we-
Information was so hard to access. You had to write the newspaper to find the name of a restaurant.
That reminds me, you and I for years, and this was going to be one of my brands in the first year, and I never did it, was Parade Magazine.
We love Parade Magazine.
The beginning of Parade Magazine is all questions like this, but it's in modern day. It's now.
I think that's why I love Parade Magazine, is because it feels like my personal time machine to a better time.
Yeah, but then you're also like, this human being is alive right now, and they're writing Parade Magazine to say, hey, I really love Claire Danes in Romeo and Juliet. Is she up to anything now? What? As a researcher, it just makes it like, what? You wrote the paper to see what Claire Danes is doing?
It's
Just
so
ask
sweet.
Siri.
Take me back.
All right, and this is the very last part of the show. I call this, because I don't have a fun name for it, Fun Facts or Just Facts?
I think that's a fun name.
I'll read it. You tell me which.
Okay.
Popularity in fondue declined in the 1970s, but it returned in the 90s and again since 2010.
I think that's, you know how I would say is like determine if it's a fun fact or just a fact?
How?
Would you like bring it up unprompted, like at a dinner?
That's a great...
You know what I mean?
That's
Like if
really
it was
good.
on topic, if somebody was like, gosh, when was fondue even popular? And then you like just deliver the information.
Funny you ask, because you're going to think that's a simple answer. It's actually slightly more complicated than that.
And for that, it's helpful. So that is just a fact.
You're right. That is just a fact. All right. 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of the melting pot.
Okay, so I'm imagining I'm at a Super Bowl party. The Super Bowl's today. I'm imagining you're just kind of a lull, the commercial break.
My husband and I, we went to the melting pot last night.
Did you know that it was actually just their 50th anniversary?
Yeah, the signage all said that.
Oh, so then it was just a fact, not a fun fact. My friends Jon and Marisa lied to me in the podcast I listened to.
Okay, these could go either way. Fondue forks are often different colors. This helps people keep track of their own fork.
You know what? That is a fun fact because I remember loving that about the fondue forks rattling around in the garage. The little dot at the end, of course, because it was 70s, one was like an avocado green, one is like that kind of orange yellow. Fun fact.
70s, you got your colored fork and your wine charm on your glass.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like everything's identified. I had it at just fact, and I agree. Now in Inge
fine.
Pod, it feels fun. Only two more. April 11th is National Cheese Fondue Day.
That's fun.
I just had it as fact, but okay. Wow, you
Well,
are easy at a party.
You know what's funny? We're on a text chain with my mom, which she was
She gives us every day of the week. She's like, it's Warthog Day.
So I think it would be fun for her.
It
so
would
in
be
her
fun
honor,
for her.
she
That is
texts
true.
us, every 3 days telling us what the day is.
All right, here's the last one. This is the only one that I actually had marked as fun, and I stand by it.
Okay.
It is a tradition that if a man, why just a man?
It's a man's world, baby.
You'll be glad that it is. It is a tradition that if a man drops his piece of bread in the fondue pot, he must buy a round of drinks. If a woman loses her bread in the pot, she must kiss.
Take off her top.
Oh, she must sleep with everyone at the restaurant.
What is it really?
She must kiss all her neighbors. Not the people she's eating with.
Her neighbors at
just
home.
to go home and kiss that neighbor she hates.
There's Edmund next door. Yeah. There's Louie. I got to give him smooches. Knock on their door at night. They're like, oh, you were at the melting pot. Your bread fell in. It's like, yeah, they know. And they kiss. Yeah.
It's Doug's winter party. It's everybody. But I thought that was a fun fact.
That is really
At least
fun.
buying the round of drinks.
Well, we will have to follow that rule when we eat at the melting pot.
Yeah, we will do a live. We'll do a live from the pot. From the pot.
You're all
Well,
getting smooched.
That's the show, guys. We did it. That is the melting pot.
Oh my gosh.
I hope
I'm
you-
as sweaty as a bowl of cheese.
Me too. I hope you learned something to whisper into your lover's ear as you're done nibbling on it or whatever you people do.
You people.
All right. Well, before we go, I have already spun the Wheel of Freaks, so I can do our shout outs for this week's Freaks of the Week. If you don't know, these are all the people that guessed our Easter egg correctly last week for Velcro. If you're unaware, on our Instagram story, Every Wednesday, I post an Insta egg. It is a puzzle that lets you guess what our brand is going to be that week. I've already made the one for the melting pot. It's very cheesy. If you get it right, you get a little on-brand badge, and you get your name added to the Wheel of Freaks. And every week, we spin the wheel and give 5 shout-outs to our Freaks of the Week. And this week, that honor goes to Danny St. Clair, Matina Radwell, Corey Hatton, who got mentioned in the show.
Corey Hatton, who's listening to this episode while he makes love to his wife.
We saved their marriage years ago, and they've now stuck by us. Savannah Bowling, and of course, Idiot. Congratulations, guys, on being our Freaks of the Week this week. Thank you for always playing the Insta Egg, and if you haven't played, sign up to get alerts and play every Wednesday.
And while we're giving shout-outs, I want to give some shout-outs to some lovely listeners who have left us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We have John Bergen, who is the one who said they have a long history of selling big brands in a very brand-centric industry, and not going to say these guys have really deep insights into brand building. Wow.
He's right. But
Rude.
we have great Emmy Award-winning research.
But we are great researchers, very entertaining, and have great buddy movie chemistry. Never misses an episode. So nice. Lizzie2737 calls us a delightful duo. Delightful and hilarious duo. Entertain you endlessly. So nice. And Bixby6 says, fun for all ages. Well, I don't know about that. Listens with their teenager on the morning commute to school. Aww. Isn't that so cute? I like to think that this teenager is talking about fondue at the lunch tables. Did you know that the forks are colored so you don't get them mixed up? That's really cute. Thank you so much for leaving us these reviews. If you haven't done that already, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Can you do reviews? If you do, I won't be able to access them.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. I'm always confused by you can.
Well, I've never seen them.
I've never seen them.
Maybe they're out there. They're all 1 star. The people on Spotify hate us. No, I don't know. Apple Podcasts is where we're reading them from. So if you're able to do that, please do. It helps us out. It lifts our spirits. And as we mentioned, the Patreon is live. So if you want more of this, if you want to hear about John's rant at the woman at Best Buy who he got in trouble, I can't wait to hear more about that. Or our adventure to the Titanic escape room. Check out our Patreon, Off Brand, patreon.com/onbrand with Jon and Marisa. And with that, we'll be back next week with an all-new episode.
And remember, we may go off topic, which we proved today so much, especially with Al gone. I think when he listens to this, he's going to die with just how much we did go off topic. But we will always be on brand.
Bye.
Goodbye.